1 Kings chapter 11 verse 3 states that Solomon had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. This is one of the more controversial verses in the Bible, and I do see a lot of debate over whether or not God allowed Solomon to have these wives, and if so, why. To answer this question, I first want to say that while God did allow Solomon to have these wives, he absolutely did not approve of it. Solomon's marital decisions were in direct violation of God's law, and there were consequences to his actions. Here's a deeper explanation to help you understand God's plan for Solomon. So first of all, we need to understand free will. To explain God's actions further, we need to understand that a fundamental aspect of the Judeo-Christian understanding of humanity is free will. God allows humans to make their own choices, even when those choices are not in line with his commands or ideals. Solomon's decision to take many wives and concubines was his own, and it eventually led to negative consequences, as forewarned in biblical teachings. Next, we have to understand the cultural context of the story. During Solomon's time, it was common for kings and rulers to have multiple wives and concubines, often as part of political alliances and social status. While this was a prevalent practice, it wasn't necessarily condoned by God and is not an excuse. We have to remember that the Bible often records history as it happened, not always as it should have happened, according to God's standards. The next point is biblical warnings and consequences. The law of Moses, given earlier in Israelite history, specifically warned against kings having multiple wives, as it turns the heart away from the Lord, as explained in Deuteronomy 17:17. Solomon's deviation from this commandment led to severe consequences, as his many marriages led him away from worshipping God alone. His wives introduced idolatry into Israel, leading to spiritual and eventually political decline. And Solomon's actions angered God, leading to divine judgment. God declared that he would tear the kingdom away from Solomon, though for the sake of David, Solomon's father, this division would occur during the reign of Solomon's son, as explained in 1 Kings 11:11-13. We also have to look at the purpose in the biblical narrative. The story of Solomon, like many others in the Bible, serves multiple purposes. It's historical, moral, and theological. It illustrates the fallibility of even the wisest of men and demonstrates that wealth, power, and human wisdom can lead to moral failure if not aligned with God's guidance. And finally, I want to discuss God's long-term plan and redemption. The Bible often shows how God works through imperfect people and situations to bring about his ultimate plan of redemption. Solomon, despite his failings, played a role in God's larger story, which includes themes of grace, forgiveness, and the coming of Jesus Christ, who is often referred to as the son of David, Solomon's father, and the true and perfect king. So in summary, Solomon's many marriages were a result of his personal choices within his cultural context, which did go against God's commandments. The biblical account of Solomon serves to teach lessons about the importance of faithfulness to God's laws, the dangers of straying away from them, and the overarching narrative of redemption that runs through the Bible.